This is the year of wake up and smell the competition. Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack. Ain't no stopping me now.
I'm gonna make sure he go right out the ring, and I might get on the top of the bucket or the rope and come down with a flying elbow kick.
I'm going to cook him and see how he feels like it. I'm going to see if he's going to get up off the floor. I don't think he's got the bottle, minerals, bollocks, whatever you want to call it. He ain't got it. He's an on-top fighter. He's a bully fighter. And when a bully gets bullied, he falls every single time.
What is that song? I believe the Beatles had it. Is all you need is one. Deontay Wilder just needs one shot, and it's game over.
Thank you very much for being a dosser. Thank you.
Second is laughing because he got beat up so bad.
Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube, obviously podcast from iTunes, Spotify, radio, etc. I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. We've been talking all things boxing and some MMA. I know Gary's not gonna be around for that. Obviously, he's gonna clock off when we get to the MMA part. But don't worry, our boxing fandom and listeners, we're gonna cover all the boxing news and previewing all the action this weekend first, and then let me break down the UFC 248 card as well because I want to. I like that card. It's probably the marquee combat sports card of the weekend, so I feel like we have to talk about it, at least in terms of the channel. So without further ado, let's get to my illustrious co-host. I wasn't going to say panel, but Rob's probably about to wake up somewhere in the UK right now and is too lame to join us for a morning show in the UK. But Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. Yeah. If you wanted to talk about the Heat beating the Bucks last night, blowing them out, that was something we could have talked about. But the UFC, yeah, I mean, I can't help you out there.
I'm sorry. And Santiago's asking us Skype up. No, because I have a lot to get to on today's show. It's a late show. It's 8 p.m. over on the West Coast. I've had a very busy day. I have to travel to San Francisco tomorrow, so I'm not going to have any callers on today's show trying to get through all the topics and news. Sorry, Santiago. But, Gary, we even have a Brandon Figueroa topic to discuss.
I know. And
I'm excited, man.
It's just a good day.
Just a good day.
Yesterday was Texas Independence Day. Today is Brandon Figueroa news topic day. It's just a good day. It's a good day.
For all of us Bernie Sanders supporters, maybe not so much a great day.
No, he just won California.
Ooh.
He's
going to come in second overall for Super Tuesday. We know that.
He won California and Texas. Those are two big pieces.
Yep. And Biden won all the states that Trump's going to win in the general. Hey, this is politics, I guess. Digressing, that's not what you came to Mixed Comment Radio to listen to about Super Tuesday talk. We came to listen to boxing talk. So let's talk about the fights come up this weekend. First, let's talk about news. Probably the marquee boxing card of the weekend. It's not a stacked weekend for boxing. Is the Adam Wanaki versus Robert Helenius fight on Fox. Oh my God. Now I'm trying to look at this card and find something I like. And there's nothing I like about this card. F.A. Ajagba versus Razvan Kojonu, who obviously was the sparring partner to Joseph Parker, fought Joseph Parker, lost to a bunch of other guys. Zachary Ochoa is on the card. Cool. This might be one of the worst, if not the worst, PBC Fox event they've put on it since they had their deal. Gary, any saving grace, any silver lining on this card that we can talk about other than Adam Manaki picking up a win and probably going to fight Andy Ruiz, which we're going to get to later on in the show?
All right.
Fine.
Look, let's be real. There's nothing good about the fight, but here's what I want to say. I think Kwanaki is becoming a star in New York with the Polish community. I think this will measure that because Robert Helenius is going to sell between 0 and 5 tickets, right? So this is all Kwanaki. The rating, how many the tickets sold, everything is based off Kwanaki, who I think is starting to have a little star power to his name, right? Like, he's a fat guy. People like fat guys. He's good, right? He's got a natural community. He's got a natural fan base in New York. I think this is going to be a good gauge of if Kwanaki is where he is at his star level, right? Like, if he wins and he fights Ortiz next, who's the A side? Like, it's a good gauge of how big of a star he is. So I'm trying to find a silver lining because the fight Robert Helenius is a ridiculous opponent. I'm trying to find some silver lining.
It's such a backward step from like the Chris Arreola that he's already fought, right? Like, it's so not needed at this point in time. Anyone within the top 15 should have been a name that they should have pushed for. And if anything, they should have just waited. Like, if there wasn't a name present within the top 15 for Wanaki, wait.
Yeah, I was going to say, why didn't they use him instead of Charles Martin versus Gerald Washington? I remember he already blew out Charles Martin. So, I mean, he's already a step above those guys. So, like, this is like 3 steps back. Robert Helenius, come on.
I'll be honest. I obviously, we will talk about it later with the Andy Ruiz matchup. But if I had to pick the next opponent for Adam Wanaki, it would be the winner of Dubois Joyce. That would be fantastic. But that's just a fantasy matchup. Digressing, though, to the other boxing card of the weekend, because let's not stay on this for too much longer. We know that Adam Wanaki is going to win by KO at some point in the fight. And the rest of the undercard, we don't care about. Scott Quigg, though, is fighting Jonah Carroll in, what is sure to be a sloppy slugfest that is fun to watch, but has no meaning anymore to, like, the divisional standing, so to speak, right? Like, the winner of this fight is not going to go on a run to the title and hold down a title at 130. That just isn't going to happen. This is a domestic fight. I'll be honest, it's kind of like a Wanaki Helenius. Like, it's going to be a sloppy slugfest for however long it lasts. I think Scott Quigg's going to win it at some point. Maybe even by KO and TKO, because he does pack some pop, at least a little bit. I mean, he broke Oscar Valdez's jaw. But I don't expect much from this fight or either guy coming out of this main event on Sky, and I believe it's on, obviously, DAZN. Zach Parker, undefeated super middleweight, fighting Rahan Murdoch. Hiri Fury back, fighting Pavel Sor. Anthony Fowler, obviously Rob's boy, is fighting on the card as well against Jake Flattery. Awesome. Jake Cullen on the card. Robbie Davis Jr. on the card. Who else? Rashad Matty. I like him a lot. He's pretty good. And that's about it from people that I know and care about. Gary, any thoughts on this Matchroom card on Saturday as well?
Like you would say, this would be a great Friday card, right? If this was a Friday card at the StubHub or whatever the UK version of the StubHub is, I really like this fight. I know it's not 2 world beaters. I know this has no real implication in the weight class, but it's going to be a fun fight. And it's like, it's kind of 50-50. I'm going to lean towards Jonah Carroll because I think he outworks him, but this is a fun fight. I can see either guy winning. And then, yeah, the undercard, I didn't realize Rashad Matty was on the undercard. It's a good card. I mean, it's not like the most important card of the day, but well, maybe it is, right? I mean, it's not. I don't know.
Adam Wanaki has far more divisional relevance.
He does.
Anyone on the Matchroom card. That would be my argument.
Because Kwanaki potentially has top 5 ability. We know neither guy at this point has top 5 ability in this fight. It's just a fun fight.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. It's a good Saturday afternoon card for us. I wish it was on a Friday, but
both fights should be FS1 equivalents on Friday night. right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if Adam Wanaki Hellenius was a Friday night FS1 event, would any of us be upset about it? Or as much upset about it, I should say.
There you go. Yeah. No, it'd be more acceptable.
No,
This
yeah.
being
If there's a showbox
showbox card, right? Yeah.
like no one would be upset by that. And likewise, I think because it's a DAZN card, it's kind of, I want to say is it viewed as a next gen card? I don't know specifically. Maybe our UK listeners will enlighten me about that. But if it's labeled as a next gen card for the Matchroom event, then it's labeled as something that's not the marquee boxing event of the week. It's labeled as, hey, this is just boxing content to watch. Santiago in the chat saying I'm picking Scott Quigg by TKO between rounds 5 and 7. I feel like picking that, but Jonah Carroll's kind of tough. I can see this lasting the full 12 easily as well. This is one of those that we could see like guys getting hurt by round 4 and 5 and then saying, oh, it's gonna be over, and then round 12 rolls by and it's like, oh, it lasted the full 12. Kind of like Mikey versus Jesse Vargas, and not 1-to-1 analog. They're not the same fights, but just in terms of tone for the fight, how it did kind of seem like Mikey was going to get him out of there in the middle rounds, but he lasted the full 12.
That's what I'm kind of thinking. Like I'm thinking like just Quigg lands the better shots and he probably hurts him more, but if it goes all 12 rounds, I think it will. I think Jonah Carroll just wins rounds on his output, on his punch output, and like he takes a very close, maybe controversial decision. But I'm gonna take Jonah Carroll by really, really close. I'm gonna say Jonah Carroll by split/controversial decision.
Wow, Gary. Wow, going on a ledge there, I would say, huh?
Is it that big of a? I mean, I would imagine Quigg's a slight favorite, but I don't think it's that big of a ledge.
To give Jonah Carroll credit, he definitely, I think, gave Tevin Farmer his toughest fight for a while until Joseph Diaz beat him. So Jonah Carroll's not too bad, and plus 130 is not a super stacked, talent-rich division. It just isn't. But those top guys at 130, they're clearly a level above these guys, like the Leo Santa Cruzes, the Miguel Burchelts of the world, the Tevin Farmer, Joseph Diaz's. They're better than these guys. The Rene Alvarados, they're better than these guys. Just honestly speaking. Moving on to
Anthony Fowler. Does that have any luster for you? Does that not matter? Nah.
He's a Joey Spencer.
Yeah, he kind of is.
I'm gonna have so much hate in the comment section.
Oh, they can fight each other at some point. They totally 160. Yeah, they could meet up at some point. I got Fowler, by the way. At least right now.
Right now, I definitely have Fowler. But he's the UK's better version of Joey Spencer, just being honest. Moving on, though, just going to sort of roll through the other cards that are being televised or streamed on this weekend. On Friday, I want to say March 6th. Yes, that's Friday. The day before my birthday. Woohoo. In the UAE, not woohoo. Go look up, a ton of issues concerning the UAE, but digressing from that, sports washing, all the fun stuff. But I think it's going to be a Frank Warren card, I'm assuming, because it's ESPN Plus. It's TJ Doheny, Naruto Jimenez. Who else would we know? That's about it for people that I know, to be quite honest. Steve Collins Jr., I know him. But TJ Doheny, I will obviously go and watch him at featherweight too. Interesting. Moving up a division. I'm curious to see how he does at 126. Also on Friday in Telemundo, Mexico City, Armando Torres versus Juan Alejo, Sergio Meja versus Miguel Angel Luna Tapia. I don't know any other people on this card. What else? ESPN Plus on Saturday, Danny Dignam versus Alfredo Melli. I don't know who any of these people are. God damn. How did they find these people, Gary? Like, I honestly want to know. Also, on Saturday, Integrated Sports Pay-Per-View. Don't know what that is. In Irving, Texas, Sam Clarkson Jr., Evan Holyfield is on the card. Tristan Calcuth. Obviously, I know my boy Gary's going to be happy about hearing about paying money to watch Tristan Calcuth fight.
It's probably cheaper just to go to it, right? It's at the Irving Junction or whatever. It's probably cheaper to go than it is to buy it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Also, a Facebook card, Golden Boy Facebook. I didn't know they still had those. But digressing, in Mexico, Oscar Duarte versus Andreas Garcia, Luis Hernandez, William Cepeda. I don't know anyone else on this card. And that's about it for.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards on, but none of them are good.
Not a single one.
Oh, do you think old man Holyfield will be at his son's fight? Because then I want to go.
Yeah. I would assume he will be. Because I'm not going to say Evan is like the goods. But out of like a bunch of like the Shane Mosley Juniors and like the Holyfield like sons, like you know what I mean? Like there's been a ton of offspring that have been fighting lately. He might be one of the better ones. I'm not saying he's going to be Chavez because Chavez was actually kind of decent. I know we crap on him all the time, but he was actually pretty decent
Compared to a lot of the other sons. Yeah.
And that's just like across all sports too. Like sons in sports do not do well, man.
Ken Griffey Jr. did all right.
That's like the one. Moving on though to news of the day in the boxing world. Bob Arum was interviewed by Marcos Villegas, obviously over at Fight Hub TV on YouTube. And Bob Arum said that the money Mikey Garcia wants is obscene. He can't draw, and actually got up and walked out of the interview when he was asked follow-up questions about working with Mikey Garcia. Gary, is this just Bob Arum being Bob Arum?
Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, we know Mikey can draw because he did 350,000 pay-per-view buys with Errol Spence. He did 50,000 ticket sales in Dallas. I don't know what the attendance was the other day, but it looked pretty good. Like, Mikey can sell.
Well, we're really going outside the United States to.
Whoa. CNBC, I'm deleting you.
Isn't me. I just assume that it's me when that happens.
It was actually me. It was a DAZN topic, but fucking ad, get out of here. Mike Bloomberg. Tom Steyer. I don't know who it was. It sounded like Tom Steyer, if I'm going to be honest. Back to Mikey, though, and Bob Arum.
Yeah, obviously Mikey can sell, which is why Bob Arum didn't want to lose him, which is why he wouldn't let him buy himself out of his car. Obviously he can sell. This is just Bob Arum doing Bob Arum things.
Do you think the Terrence Crawford Mike Garcia fight is a moneymaker for ESPN for pay-per-view?
It's better than a lot of other options they're going to have, right? Like, it's a decent draw. I mean, I think you can do it in Dallas, but do you think it would go Dallas or Vegas?
So you think having it in Dallas the first time, or the Spence Mikey fight, was that Spence was from Dallas, right?
It ain't going to do 50,000 like that, but if it did 15,000.
But I feel like it could do 10,000 in Vegas and do a better gate.
So just do it in Vegas. Yeah.
Do it in Vegas. Maybe LA. Maybe
yeah, you can do it now. I would probably do that. But like, I don't know, Crawford, because that would be a home game for Mikey. I don't know. I guess
it would be.
I know not in terms of star power. Is Terrence Crawford the B-side in that fight?
His track record on pay-per-view is really abysmal.
Right.
But his record on TV is
great. Yeah.
Fantastic. From a pure Google Analytics perspective, Mikey's probably bigger because Terrence Crawford's like really isolated in like Nebraska and the states around it in terms of like popularity. He just is. Like honestly, if you go on like Google Analytics right now and type in their names and compare them, Mikey is big in the Southwest. So you got states like California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico. Guess what? Those all grossly overpopulate or outpopulate, I should say, states like Nebraska, Iowa, Oklahoma, states that Terrence Crawford draws in and is like popular in from a Google analytical perspective. So maybe Mikey is the A side. So that's why you probably make it in Staples Center or Honda Center. And but you make Terrence Crawford the A side in terms of the poster. So that'd be the way you offset it. Terrence Crawford's the A side in names. And it's going to do 250, 300,000 pay-per-view buys. Right.
I just looked up the population of Nebraska. It's actually bigger than I thought. It's 1.9 million. Yeah, I thought it was going to be like less than that, like just over a million. So it's about the same size as Dallas, to put that in perspective.
No comment.
Or a third of the size of LA.
If that.
6 million. I don't know. What's the, I mean, I don't know.
I have no idea what the
Yeah.
LA County is big, man. And plus, like, if you include like OC County, which would travel for that type of fight.
Yeah. No, the whole state of Nebraska. Nebraska is a big state. The whole state is 1.9 million. Yeah.
Let's get to more news, just because it's a late show. We're not going to be here forever, but we do have a lot to get to on today's show. DAZN and Sky obviously are going to be battling up in the next few years, as we reported and talked about on yesterday's show. Yeah, it was yesterday's show about the DAZN going global with the app. But interesting, added tidbit to this, to that potential battle and rivalry. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom are making their own OTT service, which is like DAZN. It's an over-the-top service. It's a streaming service like Netflix, Hulu, etc. So Matchroom is making their own OTT service called Match Sport, which will feature all their sports and markets and locales where they have the rights to solely, sort of like DAZN. And it just presents a interesting aspect to the future of Matchroom sports, Matchroom boxing, obviously, because that more is what we talk about in our sphere and what we discuss on this show, not like darts and snooker and whatever else they do in Matchroom sports, but Matchroom boxing. We care about its long-term future and what happens to it, where it's located for all the fans. What do you think about this, Gary? That we have DAZN entering the UK market for May for the Canelo fight. Going forward, all Matchroom USA events will be on DAZN in the UK, not on Sky Sports like they previously were. And now Matchroom is also opening up their own streaming service to go global in theory. Just thoughts on this? I mean, this is particularly for me very interesting stuff because this is massive shifts for the industry if these things all move in the way I'm thinking they're moving.
Yeah. At first I was like, well, they're going to try to be a major player. And then I'm thinking, like, this is going to be more like ESPN Plus. Like, it's going to be supplemental stuff, right? It's going to be stuff for the sport hardcore. It's going to be libraries of stuff and games and competitions that they've had over the years. I don't think that, like, this is a game changer. Just like ESPN Plus, right, at this moment at least, is not a game changer for ESPN. I think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be a couple bucks a month, and it gives you supplemental stuff for hardcore sports fans.
I will push back on that argument slightly. While you're right that ESPN Plus has not been a, quote, game changer in the sporting landscape in the U.S., neither is DAZN, neither is these sort of sports streaming apps, ESPN Plus and DAZN have been absolutely fundamental in changing the paradigm of our industry that we talk about.
Our industry, yes, that's true.
So to maybe have a very microscopic viewpoint of Matchroom sport when it comes to their boxing industry and their boxing future and where it's going to be located. I mean, is it not completely feasible now that in 2, 3, 4 years that Matchroom is completely gone from Sky Sports and they're on DAZN and their own streaming app and their own content and system, like a lot of other companies are sort of going that way and sort of producing their own app, their own content distribution?
Well, I mean, I thought doesn't DAZN have some kind of minority ownership in Matchroom?
Matchroom US. So
just Matchroom US.
So it's Matchroom LLC, for those who don't understand the difference. LLC corporations are U.S. corporations, so that is the overarching corporation of Matchroom USA. It's not specifically Matchroom USA Limited, which is their UK holdings of the U.S. company, which I don't even want to get into the differences.
But I think when they were going to get all of the matchroom fights moving forward. I think that's kind of the writing on the wall. I think DAZN and matchroom, DAZN's just going to swallow it at some point. You know what I'm saying? And it's just going to, DAZN and matchroom are going to be the same company. Maybe 5 years from now, but before DAZN goes public, that will have. They will have at least a majority hold of Matchroom USA, but Match Sports in general.
Match Limited, period.
Matchroom Limited, yeah.
Period. Okay. Interesting. I don't disagree with that. It does seem like we have this era of huge multimedia conglomerates gobbling up other multimedia conglomerates and forming monopsonies and monopolies. So DAZN obviously is trying to go global, trying to compete, and swallowing up a Matchroom Sport would be huge. If they're able to take away all of Matchroom's content from Sky Sports, it wouldn't be the absolute game changer as having like Premier League rights or Champions League rights, but it would still be a massive shift in our industry completely if DAZN were to have a complete monopoly over Matchroom content. Also, I didn't have it up because I just deleted it, as you know, me and Gary joking about the CNBC having ads and shit for Tom Steyer. But John Skipper out there talking again in the context of buying up the Sunday ticket from AT&T when their rights run out this year, next year. I forget when exactly. But Gary, thoughts on DAZN buying up the Sunday ticket? The NFL Sunday ticket for those zones.
I mean, it seems like a ridiculous pipe dream that they're going to buy this over all the other players. I don't know. I mean, how crazy are they? How much is that going to cost you, though? It's football in the USA. I mean, you know how much money that costs? You know how popular football is? Like, I'd say probably the only thing more popular than football in America is, like, ice cream. Like, it's football. I mean, I don't know how much that's going to cost, but I've said that DAZN doesn't have the money to do all the things they've done so far, so I don't know. I mean, it seems like crazy to me, but maybe. They've talked about it for a while.
Sports rights have only gone up, right? Like that's the one TV rights fee, so to speak, that has continually gone up as cord cutting has gone up, which is just very odd. But live sports is still the most valuable content for TV and streaming companies. And in this age of inflation and the market value being so again inflated due to people like DAZN, due to companies like DAZN, how can they outbid Disney, Amazon? It doesn't seem likely. It just doesn't. Not that Len Blavanik doesn't have a ton of money, he does, but he's also looking for other investors for DAZN because he doesn't want to foot the bill anymore. And to pay for the NFL Sunday ticket would be a multi-billion-dollar deal. It just, again, Disney, Amazon, these are companies that seem far more likely to hold down the fort.
Do you think it's realistic that they could get?
They mentioned hockey. John Skipper mentioned the NHL. That's far more likely.
That's a good bit because hockey is awful and atrocious, but their fans are hard. It's not like boxing fans; they ain't going nowhere. Like if you're still a hockey fan in 2020, you're going to be a hockey fan moving forward. So you got a niche base. I think, and it's going to be pennies on the dollar compared to football. So I think hockey is a good bet. That's why I thought college football was a good bet.
And hockey's so cheap. I mean, look, hockey gets less views than boxing does.
That's amazing, isn't it?
The playoffs get crazy views, but they're like regular season games, atrocious averages. Just look them up. I think like let's say it's like 600,000 something is like the NHL game average. That's awful. That's so bad.
Yeah, but it makes sense because hockey is awful.
You are absolutely right, Gary. You are absolutely right. But you're right that also that their fans are niche. They're going to support. And it's another demographic of sporting fans to come in and to take in to be a subscriber boost for you as DAZN. But also, I'm curious whether like an ESPN rethinks a NHL rights overall because of ESPN Plus and wanting more content there. You know what I mean? Like this age is very different. You know, it was what 2 or 3 years ago when like ESPN cut their entire NHL staff, right? Like they're in, like from their journalistic standpoint, like they cut all the reporters and writers for I think the NHL. I think all of them, right? I'm not wrong in that.
I don't know if they kept any. I know if it wasn't 100%, it was like they kept one guy.
Yeah, they traded like boxing. It was that bad. And then NBC, I think, cut like half their staff. And they're the ones that have most of the rights to the NHL right now, but they even cut half their staff, which is crazy. And they have most of the rights to the NHL. So that was just a few years ago. But now in this arms race for sports content, to be the next Netflix in the market, but now for sports, I can see a hockey being more valuable now than it was just a year or 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, whenever that was. I'm trying to remember in this age of news and media, it could have been 5 years ago, 6 years ago, for fuck's sake, but I think it's a year ago. Moving on, though, for the sake of time, let's talk about some heavyweight fights. Matchroom confirming that Dillian Whyte, Alexander Povetkin is happening May 2nd, Manchester Arena. Obviously, will be pay-per-view in the UK. Gary, thoughts on Whyte Povetkin, the fight of the century? I know
I can't hate on the fight, right? Because it's a borderline top 10 guy, and Dillian Whyte, a top 5 guy, I guess, right? Probably 5.
Yeah, you can give him that.
Yeah. So I got no complaints with the fights. Like, Povetkin got to get knocked out brutally again because you know that's coming. And Povetkin's going to be doing fine until he's not, right? And you know it's going to be a vicious knockout. It's like Povetkin is almost 40 years old now. He's made a ton of money in the sport. Why this fight? Like, just you're going to get knocked out brutally.
UK pay-per-view.
Yeah, I know.
Dillian Whyte does at least 350 every time, it seems.
There's got to be an easier way for Povetkin to make money at this point than getting knocked out brutally by Dillian Whyte again. I mean, do you see this any other way for Povetkin besides brutal knockout?
I mean, he might get lucky. If we get the Dillian Whyte that showed up against Maurice Vach, who was overweight, I mean, clearly was off the PEDs, allegedly. I don't want to get sued. That's not going to happen. Maybe Povetkin has a chance, but it's Whyte versus Povetkin, and it's UCAD. There's going to be like no oversight for this one. So both guys should be good to go. Whyte should be good to go. If Whyte's good to go, he should knock him out within 8 rounds. Right? That's my thinking. Because anything that Povetkin does, Whyte does, and he does with a younger, more athletic, more power. And he's a bigger fighter, too. I think he's a far bigger fighter than Povetkin, from my mind. I don't know exactly their measurements, but I want to say Whyte's a significantly bigger opponent. I
mean, but today's standard, Povetkin's probably, 225, 230. Povetkin's not a big heavyweight by today's standards.
He could probably cut down to cruiserweight if he was.
Yeah, but now he's old. He's not cutting weight now. Yeah.
No, not at all. Thoughts on what's next with Dillian Whyte after this fight? Because we both think he's going to win this one. We have Wilder Fury being locked up for July. We have AJ Pulev in June. Presumably speaking, I think we're both under our sort of prediction here is that Fury and AJ will win that fight and fight end of the year, actually, potentially, maybe first quarter of the 2021. What does Whyte do next? What does he do in the meantime in the second half of 2020?
Usyk. But like, if I'm Usyk, I'm not taking that fight because I'm just waiting on my title shot. But
I don't know, man. You can't wait. You can't wait 6 months again, Usyk. I'm sorry.
Well, he's fighting. Yeah. Well, he's fighting Chisora. Let's say he wins that. Then I'm waiting. I'm not fighting Chisora and Whyte in the interim. Like, I'm not fighting those two guys. I'll fight Wach in the interim.
Okay, here's the deal. So theoretically, right, we're going to have Fury AJ December, let's say, right, to avoid the WBC mandatory first quarter of 2021 situation, which will be Dillian Whyte. Are we both picking Tyson Fury here, just for this thought experiment, right? We're both picking Tyson Fury to win that fight. He's now the undisputed unified champion. God damn it. Sucks. And now he has a mandatory to Dillian White. Obviously, some belts will be probably stripped from him in that meantime, I'm assuming, after he becomes the undisputed champion. So does Dillian White just fight Tyson Fury the first quarter of 2021 and wait from May to February or March of 21? Or does he fight Usyk? Or in like Usyk's case, he's a mandatory to the WBO. I mean, let's be honest, I don't think he's going to be in a position to call that one. I think he'd probably be for a vacant title at that point. So if you're White, do you go for the vacant title with Dillian White? Or, I mean, for Usyk, or for the mandatory with Tyson Fury? You're muted. It's okay. It happens to the best of us.
Well, Fury would be more money, so Dillian White would want that fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be
realistic. Do we see Tyson Fury walking off in the sunset after beating AJ and just all those belts become vacant?
Again, it's Tyson Fury. Yes, that's certainly a possibility, right? Like, he's done it once. He might do it again. Yeah, so Dillian White's going to get his title shot in 2021. It's just, who is it against? Is it against Fury, or is it for a vacant belt? I don't know. I would say that his best bet is to try to get Usyk, because he can't beat Fury.
Wait. Wilder, Dillian White for the vacant belt.
Yeah. I was thinking that too. I was like, how can I get those two guys to fight a vacant WBC belt after Fury retires when he becomes undisputed?
Dude, that'd be crazy if that happens. That would be if that's the way that fight actually gets made. Crazy. I can't believe it.
If Fury unified all 4 belts and then walked off, you would get some garbage champions. But the ranking committees, like the committees, all like you'd get like another Charles Martin holding a strap. You'd get somebody so bad holding a heavyweight title.
Not to disparage these fighters, but you would see like a Hrgovic collect the belt somehow.
Yeah.
You know, and like, no offense to Hrgovic, but like he shouldn't be collecting a belt with like Gerald Washington.
Charles Martin may get another title shot.
Don't joke about that. It might happen. Still on heavyweights though. Mike Coppinger saying sources Andy Ruiz Jr.'s ring return is being planned for August. 2 names being discussed for his opponent, Adesanya, who we talked about earlier, who fights Robert Helenius on Saturday on Fox. If he wins as expected. The other option under discussion for the former heavyweight champion, Chris Arreola. I'll be honest. Obviously, an Adesanya fight is a fight to get him back into title contention far quicker, right? I mean, if he beats Adesanya, he's back into a title fight instantaneously from that, in my opinion. But he's going to have probably a significant layoff, obviously. Was that from December to August? What is that, 7-8 months?
8 months.
8 months. New trainer with probably Teddy Atlas. I'd rather him fight Chris Arreola. That would be the smarter play. He's coming off an L. He's in no position to fight for a title right now due to rankings, immediate rematch clauses, all that fun stuff.
Not to mention conditioning.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about blowing off camp and everything like that. So let's see how he looks. And now we have in a weird way, a generational fight here in the heavyweight division between Mexican heavyweights. Put this fight in Staples Center. Right? Like, it's just so fucking obvious. Like, that would be a good fight for Staples Center on Fox. Ruiz versus Arreola. I think it's the smarter play. It's the long-term play. That's what I would do if I'm Andy Ruiz Jr. But Adesanya is the better fight, and it's the fight to sort of jettison him back to a title shot. Gary, your thoughts on what's next for Andy Ruiz Jr.?
When they had Kwanaki headlining this card at the Barclays, I was thinking that something big is coming his way. And Andy Ruiz makes perfect sense, right? So I was just thinking, that fight's going to happen next. But Kwanaki would want it on the East Coast, and Ruiz would want it on the West Coast. And then you just said Arreola in a generational Mexican scrap between the two great Mexican heavyweights, or Chris Arreola and a great Mexican heavyweight.
Well, Chris Arreola, I mean, he was a perennial top 10 guy.
He was. It was good. It was good.
Even though it was an era that was shit, he was a perennial top 10 guy. Credits him for that.
So I think you might have just sold me on that, because that's it. I don't want to say it's an easy fight, but it's a pretty easy fight for Andy Ruiz if he's in any kind of shape at all. First fight with a new trainer, you probably take that fight in the West Coast, which it sells well because it's two big names in that region, as opposed to, I don't know how good Andy Ruiz sells in the East Coast, and I know Kronaki's not going to sell on the West Coast, so it's like there's no natural home for that. I mean, there is, but like not one that captures everybody. Whereas the Arreola fight makes perfect sense at the Staples Center. So do it there. It gets him a win. It's a quality win. It puts him back on the map. Look good doing it. And people will start to forget a little bit about that Anthony Joshua performance.
And anyone working at PBC listening to this show right now, scratch that from Staples Center. The Forum. Always put fights in the Forum. Plus, I'll be honest, I don't think Ruiz Arreola could sell 20, 25,000 seats. A 13, 15,000 seater like the Forum, far more feasible for them. And it's just a better location. It just is. I'm sorry. Digressing though, moving on to another West Coast fight, potentially, where this one is actually going to be a West Coast fight. Arreola and Ruiz theoretically would be a West Coast fight just from the obvious on paper makeup of the fighters and where they're from. But Obali Donaire is on Showtime and in the West Coast. Also, Lipinets versus Apkadorov will be on the card per Dan Rafael and Steve Kim. Thoughts on this? Also, it's May 16th is the date. Sorry, I didn't give the date. May 16th, Showtime, West Coast. Yet to be determined the exact place, but Obali, Donaire, Lipinets, Apkadorov, a hardcore fight. First off, Gary, is this the card to bounce Showtime back into the prime time? Come on, no, it's not. I'm joking.
It's a great card, but it's like I don't know how many people are really going to watch this. It's a hardcore cars event, right? Like, look, Obali versus Donaire. I think you guys thought it was going to be fairly one-sided, but I think it's a good fight. I'm picking Donaire, but I think it's a fun, action-filled fight. Lipinets Abakadorov is that's good. Yeah, that's going to be fireworks. I'll take Lipinets in that. Who are you taking?
Lipinets, but Abakadorov really impressed me against Luis Collazo.
Yeah.
I think people forget about that fight. Go back and watch that fight. Luis Collazo looked like he was completely lost in there. He had no idea what to do.
But this is like what I'm saying. Like, Abakadorov has a better name on his resume than Virgil Ortiz.
Yeah.
Like, Virgil Ortiz is better than him, right? So why can't they get a Luis Collazo on his resume? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the matchmaking. It's like, and I don't know. Who would you say is the better name on Virgil Ortiz's resume? Orozco or Herrera?
Herrera's the more well-known name. Orozco's the better name.
So, like, why can't you get him a solid former world champ like Collazo on his resume? Like, I don't know why this is so tough for Golden Boy.
Because it's Golden Boy.
It's Golden Boy. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Your answer was in your question. It's amazing how that works sometimes, right? It's sad that Ortiz is in that position, but hey, I mean, Abakadorov, when you're with the guy that's like Luis Collazo and you put on that performance, no discredit to him. I mean, he's obviously a top 15 player, in my opinion, in the division. Lipinets is as well. This is an IBF eliminator, I want to say, right?
Yes.
I love this fight. I love this card too. Like you said, hardcore's card. And also like that Showtime got this one. I know it's not the marquee event, but they've got a lot of trash events. I'm okay with them getting the hardcore events that are cheap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have gotten shit events lately. So this is a market improvement for them, in my opinion. LDTB in the chat is saying same thing with Jared Enos, Gary, talking to you. I agree. I mean, Jared Enos is in that position where he needs a credible name to fight. A guy that's been there, a guy, a veteran, Josito Lopez, someone of that caliber, right? And they're just not getting that opponent right now, and it's odd. It's odd to say the least.
But why would it be so hard for Oscar to say, "Give me Andre Berto"?
I don't think Berto's really fighting anymore, to be honest.
He keeps saying he's fighting, but
I don't think he is.
Yeah,
I don't think he is.
The guy, he's made a lot of money. I wouldn't fight anyone for him either.
No, and he looks very happy just being a fan. Like, he's one of those guys that's always in the crowds having fun. Like, he looks completely content with life.
And he's really, I think, like, he has a career in commentating after he's done with boxing. Like, he's a sharp guy. He puts things in perspective. Like, I think Berto has a career in boxing after he's done boxing.
They don't really use him that much at all.
I don't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get Ray Mancini. Woohoo! Yo, the crazy part is, like, PBC fans like love Ray Mancini on the mic. And I'm just like, why? Why?
I like Ray Mancini in person. You know,
guy.
He's like me. He's real excitable. He's a great little Italian guy, but it's like, this is, as a commentator, he's not. I mean,
he's a poor man's Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
I didn't like Roy Jones behind the mic either. God damn it. Moving on, though. Speaking of hardcores, Josh Taylor would be on a hardcores event, let's be honest, against Apanun Kansong. But it will be for the casuals, probably in Glasgow, Scotland, because he'll be fighting there May 2nd as a little appetizer for the Canelo card later in the day. This is all official, the Top Rank, ESPN Plus, BT, all that fun stuff. Gary, thoughts on Josh Taylor, his fight being official? And plus, just to add to this part about Josh Taylor, him and Ben Davison have officially announced their partnership for Ben Davison to be his trainer. So Josh Taylor will now be trained by the trainer that famously got Tyson Fury back to championship caliber. Gary, thoughts on Josh Taylor's fight being official and the combination of him and Ben Davison?
First fight with a new trainer, so it is what it is. Like, he's fighting in Glasgow. I wish he was fighting somebody better, but, and this is going to sound crazy, I got to speak to my wife about this, but I think I want to go out there and cover this fight. I think I want to apply for credentials to go out there.
First thing, good thing you said you're going to talk to your wife first. Smart man.
Because this isn't going. Yeah, this isn't. This is going to New York for the weekend. This is going to. But Glasgow's a great city. Like, everyone always, like, when they go to the UK, they go to, like, London, and like London's cool, but it's like a big city. Like, it's New York, it's Tokyo, it's a big city. It's fine. Glasgow's awesome.
You been there?
Yeah.
Okay. I was there for a week, I want to say. And I was in Edinburgh for a week. Love Scotland. Dublin's better, though, than both cities.
It'll be easy to get credentialed because all the real media will be in Vegas for the Canelo fight. So it'll be easy to get.
Good point there, Gary. Canelo versus TBA. Can't wait for that one to get announced. You think for this big global event, they'd want more time to promote it and everything. But hey, whatever, DAZN. Keep doing you. Moving on, where we're at. Oh, speaking of fights being announced, this is a big show of fights being announced, by the way, guys, on 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Prograis Hooker announced an official fight we've been talking about for some time at the MGM National Harbor in the DMV area. I think it's in D.C. I think it's in a suburb of Washington, D.C., if I want to be specific. Also on that card, Cecilia Barakis versus Claire McCaskill. Love that fight. Will be the co-main event. And also on that card, let me see if I can get it right. If I can find it. I think right here. Daner Yulushinov, Olympic gold medalist who beat Josh Kelly, I want to say right, in the Olympics, is fighting Julius Ndongo on this event as well. So thoughts on this sort of stacked hardcore Matchroom DAZN cards. Speaking of hardcore stacked cards, this is probably one of them as well. Gary, thoughts on this?
All right. This is a great card in the main event and the co-main. I didn't know Ndongo was still fighting. When was the last time? Has he fought since he got knocked out by Prograis?
I don't know. I don't care.
It was just like I was an Ndongo fan, but I was just like, that guy hasn't fought in years, has he?
Cannot wait for Julius Ndongo to move up to 147 and play spoiler against Danir Lusanov.
Cannot
wait.
He's not beating Usanov. But you think he got a chance in that fight?
He has a chance. I'm not picking him. I'm joking here, but like
okay.
he has a chance, absolutely. He was a 6-foot junior welterweight.
No, I liked him as junior welterweight, but he, the Prograis fight's got to be 3 years ago now.
Yeah, no, it's got to be a while. You're right about that.
It was 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago.
Did you look it up right now?
No, I can promise you. I bet you it was almost 2 years ago to the day if you want to look it up.
You remember like a flashback to an event? You're like, oh, I was there.
Yeah, because my the godson of my son that was born on Leap Day.
Yeah.
He came down to Texas for his half birthday.
Oh,
and we watched that fight.
Yeah, we talked
That's
about
how I remember.
Yes, we talked about that the other day. Prograis Hooker is a fantastic fight. I love how it's, for lack of a better word right now, it's the two losers facing off against each other from the tournament. Like right off bat, I like that. I love Brackus McCaskill. I love that fight. I love that to see Celia Brackus get put on not a big show, obviously, but a good show. And I love the Lusanov and Ndongo fight. I really do. That's like, to me, that's a better version of Virgil Ortiz and Antonio Orozco. Like a far better version of that, because Ndongo is far more proven at 140 than Orozco was. But it's like, really credible 140-pounder moving up, facing a 147-pound prospect. What happens with a lot of prospects when they bring people up a division. But Ndongo's former, unified champion, right? Yeah, he's unified champion.
He beat Ricky Burns.
Ricky Burns is one of the best Scottish boxers of all time.
Yeah.
Speaking of Glasgow and Scotland. Moving on. Sources tell The Athletic and Mike Coppinger that Sergey Kovalev, Gary's big friend, is back against Sullivan Barrera to fight on that Patrick Teixeira and Brian Castano card. And guess what, Gary? They're bumping that amazing fight to the co-main event. So you're going to get Kovalev versus Barrera as the main event in Indio, California, on April 25th.
Are you going to go? Castano Teixeira is going to be fireworks for as long as it lasts.
Probably because Teixeira.
You can just leave after the co-main, right?
And also, isn't Wenhang Menathan on that card?
Is that yes? Is that the same? I think so.
I think so. I'm 99% sure. I know Rob would be here saying yes, guys, it is. But yeah, I'm pretty sure. What do you think? Kovalev, Barrera.
It's two guys who are completely washed. Although I don't want to say Kovalev's completely washed because he was doing great in that fight till he got clipped. I always root for Cuban fighters, so I'm gonna say Barrera wins this.
Yeah, I've interviewed Barrera. I've seen him train and spar down in Florida. He's a really nice guy, very friendly guy. Big light heavyweight too. Maybe even like a bigger dude than Kovalev. I've not interviewed Kovalev, but I've been near Kovalev. Interviewed Bomac. Not Bomac. Sorry.
Buddy McGirt.
Buddy McGirt. Thank you. Sorry, it's late, guys. It's 9-something. I'm tired. I should have had coffee before this show for sure. But I don't agree. I definitely don't agree with sentiment that Kovalev is washed, or even like Barrera's washed. He was just never that great. He's a very basic fighter. He's like he's the poor man's Ugas.
I don't know. Barrera beat up Joe Smith Jr. pretty good when I was at the Joe Smith Jr. when people thought he was like the next, when he beat after Hopkins and Fanfora, he fought Barrera next, and Barrera took care of him pretty easily.
Who would win, Ugas or Lipinets?
Ugas.
I feel like that's like that version of this fight, of that fight. to a degree.
I can see that. I can see that.
It's the Joe Smith Barrera of the welterweight division, right? They're both very good. They probably, if they fight each other 10 times, they win 5 times each. I'll be honest. Like if they fought right now, Joe Smith would win. I'll pick him. But I don't think Barrera's washed. I don't think Kovalev is washed. It's interesting that they are getting a little bit older. Obviously, Kovalev is getting older. But the issue with Kovalev is more is he off the sauce? Is he going to be in jail? Like that's like kind of a question now about Sergey Kovalev. And also, why the hell do you want to be in the business with Sergey Kovalev right now? Like, why? And if you are, you put him in Indio, California. Clearly, you're not trying to do any business with him because that's a 1,000-person stadium or theater. I mean, stadium is a theater, not a big place. So yeah, that's all I have. Wouldn't
Castano versus Teixeira be a great fight to have in the StubHub?
Yes,
but
it would sell better because you have a Brazilian versus
Argentina.
There's a massive Brazilian population in LA. I think Oscar has zero idea of that.
Which is weird because, he's from LA. I don't know. Maybe he would know that, but whatever.
Right. Moving on. David Benavidez, who was supposed to fight Caleb Truax, right? The fight that we're all hyped about. Just kidding. Apparently, Caleb Truax withdrew from the fight over the weekend for reasons we don't know. So now Benavidez needs a fight. Thoughts on this, Gary? Because this is weird.
I think Truax got some sense and says, I can't beat this guy at this stage of my career. Look at the size of this animal. I'm not fighting him. He can hurt me. Nah, I'm going to chill on this.
He can hurt me.
I'm going to go fight some cab driver in Minnesota where everyone's going to cheer me. I'm not going in and fighting this guy.
Oh, man. Probably right. I mean, who does Benavidez fight now? 168 is so barren of like a deep top 10. They need people to come up, more young talent. They needed like an Anthony Sims Jr. to be like developed faster.
Do they bring Eubank up? I mean,
I had no comment, man. He did beat Yerdum, and Yerdum's mandatory.
Yeah.
168 sucks.
Danny Jacobs. Oh, Chavez Jr.
There we go. There we go. That's the fight we need. We need Benavidez to go beat up Chavez Jr. Obviously, the Jacobs fight is a far better fight. I do think, though, Jacobs is going to be in line for like a Callum Smith or Billy Joe Saunders. Whoever doesn't get the Canelo fight gets Daniel Jacobs. I think that's probably what's going to happen, to be quite honest.
But Benavidez, Chavez, we both agreed that fight was going to happen, right? After I said that Chavez is never going to fight again in this country or Mexico, I'm like, no, he'll probably fight Benavidez. I'm like, you're probably right. He probably will.
There's a lot of people with Chavez.
I'm so tired of Chavez.
We all are. But guess what? The networks, the promoters, they love Chavez.
Yeah.
They love that multi-hair colored piece of shit, man. Oh, God. The image of him looking so confused at Mickey Rourke with a blanket on him, it's just ingrained in my head. I will never lose that image from my mind ever in my life, guys. Just awful.
I'll never forget the image of Senior face palming after his son just quit because of
That is another great one. You're right about that. You're absolutely right about that. Moving on, Charlie Edwards facing Kevin Laura April 18th in the York Hall. It would be live on ESPN Plus and obviously BT. Kevin Laura's a decent fighter, decent lawyer, sort of like top 20 guy. Charlie Edwards, though, I am curious how he can really do in this division at super flyweight. Regardless, though, good to see Charlie Edwards back. He's always been a good talent. Just to sort of run through these last couple topics, Gary, and to get to the topic that I know you want to talk about. Impact Network to televise the March 27th Philly special card. Michelle Rosado, aka Raging Babe, on Twitter, for most of us that are on Twitter that know her via that. She's been promoting shows out of Philly for a long time, and now she's finally gotten a TV deal for her local club shows. Awesome to see, club level shows get some exposure. Plus, Impact Network seems to be buying up a lot of boxing content. So expect them to be more of a player, even though we will continue to make jokes about a Christian network being in the boxing business, because that just, like, the jokes kind of write themselves. I'll be honest, right? A Christian network running boxing. Have they seen the sport before? I doubt it. And last topic of the day before Gary's going to jump off, and I will cover the UFC 248 card. Brandon Figueroa, not back officially yet, though, right? But his next fight has been ordered by the WBA against Ronnie Rios. Ronnie Rios has been fighting on Matchroom cards as of late. Gary, thoughts on Brandon Figueroa versus Ronnie Rios? Thoughts on that being ordered next? Thoughts on the difference between, obviously, the Matchroom PBC conglomerates and how they will get along for this fight? Who's going to win it, per se? And obviously, any other thoughts on topics of the day as well, the other topics I addressed?
I gotta think that PBC is gonna win this because it's their guy, right? Now, Ronnie Rios is a fun fighter. He's got a win over Diego De La Hoya, and then who did he just beat? He just got another decent victory, didn't he?
It was a good win. I don't know if it was like a great name, but it was, yeah. The Diego De La Hoya win was notable.
This is a fun fight, right? And Brandon Figueroa stops eventually, but it's a lot of fun until it ends. Ronnie Rios is a guy who's never been in a bad fight. Now, he's lost most of his big fights, but he's like, every fight he's in is competitive and fun. So this would be a competitive and fun fight. It's my guy. Do you think this headlines, or do you think they use this as a co-main?
Co-main, I'm guessing. If this is a main event, it's a FS1.
FS1, which he fought Javier Chacon at a main event on FS1. I'm saying if you put this down in the Valley where you put him the last time, he draws really well. It'll do a big number at the gate, and then you'll have a fun all-out scrap where Chacon was looking to survive and got destroyed. Like, Rios is going to come to fight, so you're going to get like a typical Mexican style slugfest in the Valley, in Figueroa's hometown. Like, that's why I think you should make this the main event. And PBC, I think, would do that. Whereas I think Matchroom would just use it as a co-main because it's a really good co-main. Like, you have those two guys go at it to set up your main event. It's a great co-main. So I'm hoping PBC gets it, and I think they will because it's their guy. But you never know what Matchroom wants. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they want it, they'll go break the bank for it.
And presumably, you probably don't have to break the bank for this one.
In terms of 122 pounders. I mean, if they came out with let's say it went to purse bids and they said 700,000, they're gonna win that, right? Yeah.
Probably speaking, if you're pushing $1 million, you're probably overpaying for it.
Billy, for 122 pounders, yeah, you're overpaying for that. But
and if one of those is Ronnie Rios, you're overpaying. I
would say, what are the purses? I would say Rios gets something like 150 and Brandon gets something like 350. Is that about that? So that's 500,000.
Yeah. I that's completely fair. But Gary, any last thoughts on the boxing news, topics, fights of upcoming this weekend?
No, I mean, again, I'm really into the Quick Carroll fight. I think that's going to be a really high action, fun fight. Again, it doesn't have a ton of implications, but the rest of the weekend is just kind of so-so.
That's why I picked this weekend, and plus it's my birthday, to go on mini vacation, because you guys don't need a Adam Wanaki, Hellenius post-fight show and content.
No. But follow me on all forms of social media, 3D Boxing blog, from Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless. And I'll leave it to Matt now.
Bye, Gary. We'll talk to you later, man. Have a good one. Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the UFC card coming up this weekend, which is obviously the marquee card of the week. Let's just be quite honest about it. UFC 248, Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. I know there's a lot of different thoughts about this card from a lot of different people, right? I mean, let's just be honest. I see a lot of people in the chat saying that Adesanya cherry-picked Romero, that this is a fight that maybe shouldn't be made. And I think a lot of those arguments hold value, hold weight. Let's be quite honest. You have a guy coming off a losing streak in Yoel Romero, getting a title shot in the UFC. This is not normal. Or at least it shouldn't be normal, even though maybe in today's age it's getting more and more normal. Let's just be quite honest. But this fight does still present some stylistic, intriguing sort of nightmares for Israel Adesanya. Like, this could be a fight where he doesn't win, even though this was a cherry pick in all, for lack of a better term. Right, guys? Romero is such a dynamic, fast fighter. He is such a destructive fighter, such a violent fighter. He is a guy that is dangerous late. He is a guy that is unorthodox. He has such great wrestling pedigree, one of the great amateur wrestlers of his day. And his striking has really developed into something quite special and quite unique, and quite brutal and destructive, as I've already stated. Just go watch the Polo Bochina Costa fight, for example, where a fight that he maybe arguably won, let's be honest. And if he did get the nod from the judges, none of us would be sitting here complaining about this, being quite honest. You know, him losing a very narrow decision has led us to complain about this more than anything, in my opinion, which makes it odd. And Polo Costa is dealing with his USADA issue, so he can't be fighting right now. But Jared Cannonier should have easily got the call up before. Let's just be quite honest. But hey, this is what it is. But digressing back to Romero and how he can present such issues to Adesanya. I mean, Adesanya is a guy that is open to shots. He is a guy that can be slippery, but his guard is down often. So a guy like Romero, where he doesn't really have a pattern, it's hard to read. Maybe Adesanya doesn't read him right. He doesn't duck, doesn't slip the right way, and Romero does catch him with a flying knee. Like, this is a Romero fight. I don't think that's out of the question. Now, is obviously the argument that Romero is a 40-plus-year-old fighter, a guy that is cutting a ton of weight to get to 185. That weight cut is brutal for him. A guy that has been in tons of wars as of late. Is this fight where he all of a sudden drops off the shelf and he's done? And it's very apparent and blatant for us as the consumer and as fans. Maybe Izzy comes in there and just pieces him up, keeps him at the range of his jab, at the range of his kicks, and just brutalizes him. That's absolutely possible, but it's almost equally as possible in some weird way as Romero hurting Adesanya, who has been hurt, or out wrestling him, because Romero is the best grappler that Adesanya is going to have faced in his career. Like, it's without a doubt the best wrestler. However, Romero maybe doesn't go to takedowns enough, doesn't utilize them enough. That's absolutely true. Like I said, Adesanya should win this one. But Romero is... It's so hard to say that this fight's a cherry pick because Romero does present enough of a winning possibility, even not probability, but a possibility that this could be an upset, even with the quote cherry pick. I like this fight. But it's a fight that maybe should not have been made right now. You know, if Romero got a win under his belt, none of us would be upset, in my opinion. And I'll be honest, this was one of the fights that I wanted to see from Izzy for a while, is Yoel Romero. I thought he was the guy that presents the most stylistic issues for Adesanya. Like, over everyone else. Maybe except for maybe Jared Cannonier, but you know, Jack Hermanson, Jacare, who moved up to 205 already, Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold, guys I've been moving up to 205. obviously beat Kelvin Gastelum. Darren Till moving up, having a good win against Kelvin Gastelum. I don't think Darren Till wins against Izzy. This fight is a weird fight because it is a guy coming off a losing streak that Izzy clearly picked him in this fight. If you want to call him a cherry, though, that's where it becomes more of an argument and discussion because this fight is entertaining. It probably will be. It is a little bit mouthwatering from a stylistic perspective on how or for perceiving or thinking about who will win, who's going to get the better of the other in this fight and in the exchanges. But it does have a little bit of a dark cloud hanging over it due to the fact Romero should not be getting a title fight coming off a losing streak. And that should just be a blatant rule. If you're coming off a multiple losses in a row, you should not be fighting for a UFC title. I don't know how that's the norm. Moving on to the co-main event, Weili Zhang facing Joanna Jędrzejczyk in a fantastic fight that I think is going to be the true sort of passing the torch. Even though Zhang defeated Jessica Andrade, fantastic, and destroyed her in 40-something seconds. Jędrzejczyk was the Ronda Rousey of the strawweight division, and beating her means something. She's still probably the most popular fighter in that division, and I think Weili Zhang is going to come in there and just devastate Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I think she's going to be too much for her. I think she's going to be too much in terms of combinations, in terms of boxing ability. I think even though Jędrzejczyk's a fantastic striker, one of the best strikers in MMA, period, she can be beaten in the striking game. She does have patterns that can be read. And if you have power, if you can time her, if you can step into her mid-combination and hit her, she can get hurt. Rose Namajunas showed us that multiple times in different fights. And I think Weili Zhang is just such a giant for this division. She's so talented from a striking perspective. I think her grappling is highly underrated as well. I think Zhang could hold down the division for a while. I've been a fan of her for a while. I was a big fan of her when she beat, I think it was Tisha Torres. Again, it's a late show, guys. Sorry if the particulars wrong. Cannot wait for this co-main event. It should be a fun one. Benio Dariush versus Draco Close as on the card as well. Neo Magny versus Jinglang Li. Alex Oliveira versus Max Griffin. And other fights obviously on the card, but those are the fights that I'm going to sort of give predictions on. Draco Close, I'm going to pick because Benio Dariush is a guy that he's super talented, but super brittle. And Draco Close is a guy that's not supremely talented, but it's a good athlete, has good pop. I think is pretty durable compared to Dariush. I'm picking him purely due to that. Picking Neil Magny, and I'm picking Alex Oliveira as well. Zhang has not fought anyone close to Joanna. She has, I would say. Jessica Andrade and Tisha Torres are fantastic fighters. Perennial top 10, 15 names. So I think that's pretty obvious. But hey, if you want to pick Joanna Jędrzejczyk, go for it, man. Go for Scott Brown in the chat. But guys, that's going to be it for today's show. I hope you guys had a good one. We're going to be back. Let me think. Monday for sure, guys. I know it's going to be a while until MCR is back in your lives with the live show. But we should be back Monday. Sunday, I'll be driving back from San Francisco, so I won't be in town to do a show on Sunday. So Monday, back for you guys. Find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, on all social media platforms. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you're watching this live late or early morning or wherever you are in the world, subscribe, share the show, all the YouTube stuff. And listen on podcast form, drop that 5-star review on iTunes. Have a great day, great evening, great night, wherever you are. Peace.